Everyone remembers their first Donkey Kong game. The arcade boxes, Donkey Kong Country and its amazing soundtrack, or maybe you're like me and started with Donkey Kong 64. The mixed reviews, the endless collectibles, the character switching. Donkey Kong 64 had plenty of flaws going against it, but it was an important piece of the times. Collectathons were all the rage in the late 1990s, so after nearly 25 years of waiting, gaming fans finally got what they wanted. Donkey Kong Bananza. But was it worth the wait? "25 years, 2.5 decades later, Donkey Kong has made his triumphant return to the 3D platforming landscape. But this isn't the same jungle that Donkey Kong and pals left behind. Over the last 25, heck, almost 26 years of video game innovation, so many revolutionary changes have been made to the video game industry. Graphical overhauls, seemingly never-ending map exploration, and a large emphasis on theatrical, yet legendary stories that are often compared to movies. Donkey Kong Bananza showcases many of these changes, not only with a completely new redesign to how Donkey Kong looks, but with how the entire world around him works. But with these drastic changes, could Donkey Kong Bananza capture that classic Donkey Kong charm without all the clutter and diluted mechanics? Well, the answer might surprise you. April 2nd, 2025, Nintendo showcased the first Donkey Kong Bananza trailer during a Nintendo Direct, fully focused on Nintendo Switch 2 games. But with it being the day after April Fool's Day, you can imagine I felt like it was a dream. But it was real. It was so truly real. I've spoke loudly on my Twitch stream and in my Discord about my yearning for a new 3D platforming Donkey Kong game, and it was finally happening. As I watched the trailer, I couldn't help but notice the style of the game. Colorful, sharp, but still a little innocent. Classic Nintendo. More than anything, I remember noting it looked a lot like Super Mario Odyssey, a top 2 3D platformer of all time in my opinion, so I had high hopes going into the game. Over the next few days, more gameplay would be released, showing off mechanics, and most importantly, collectibles, just like a classic 3D platformer. But would it be overwhelming, like Donkey Kong 64? Yet to be determined. I tempered my expectation as I had learned to do in my gaming days. No expectations are better than too high of expectations. Fast forward to the release day, July 17th, 2025, my Twitch stream could feel the energy and excitement in the air. My first feel of the gameplay, I could already feel how intuitive the game was. Most Nintendo games are made to be easily accessible these days, but it was refreshing compared to previous titles. I could tell nearly immediately, Nintendo didn't just bring back the good old-fashioned Donkey Kong, they took the negative aspects of Donkey Kong 64's model and completely refined it. No more strange firearms with fruits and nuts for weapons, no juggling of 5 characters, just pure, unadulterated 3D platforming. Exactly what I had waited for. Donkey Kong could jump, he could throw, he could fly. Okay, that's a speedrunning trick, but he can't usually fly. But my main concern was collecting the bananas, known as Bananium Gems in this game. Was it satisfying, or would it feel laborious and overwhelming? I quickly learned it felt incredible. Fighting, searching, singing, even sniffing my way to every banana felt like a new adventure. Each crunch of the ground, the glittering of the gold, the cracking of the bananas, it was so satisfying to do. Donkey Kong Bananza wasn't trying to be more than it is, but it sure did know how to make things fast, focused, and most importantly, very, very fun. Bananza feels a lot more modern. I didn't have to switch to different apes every time I wanted to get collectibles, as much as I did miss those silly monkeys. Donkey Kong was designed to learn several different abilities, and with the help of Pauline, yes, that Pauline, I didn't have to completely ruin the flow of my playthrough to simply open a door. This change already cut down on extensive times you would spend chasing down barrels to switch to DK and the Funky Bunch, or Lanky, or whoever you might be playing as. Instead, Donkey Kong Bananza just lets you play the game. It's straight to the point. Oh, also, Donkey Kong has apparently turned into a world champion boxer because this dude just swings and punches people out. It's one of the only mechanics I found a tad boring and a bit too easy. The combat can get stale, but again, its focus was to be accessible to everybody. So, focus on the abilities that you learn and the timing, and you'll be good to go. But it is still much better than having to go and pick up nut after nut after nut to fire from a cannon. Overall, a big improvement for me. The look and sound of the game is bright and vibrant, just like Rare always emphasized in their Donkey Kong games, a symbiosis between the two. Crazy to say a game could sound almost visual, but it's true. Classic modern Nintendo style, and it sure does pop on the Switch 2, both in handheld or while docked. While Donkey Kong 64 and previous games had less vibrant colors, they did their best to showcase them with the tech that they had. The Switch 2 gave Nintendo a chance, much like with Mario Odyssey, to give their world a truly interactive life. Each layer feels fresh and beautiful, creating its own accomplishments and memories as you hunt down fossils and bananas. Again, you'll utilize those abilities you learn from the elders, allowing you to streamline your explorations and quests to 100% the game, just a bit more. Each layer feels vast and full, but not overwhelming. I found myself making excuses to not pass through to the next stage so I could just explore a bit more. It truly does feel gratifying and hardly ever boring. As mentioned, you collect bananas and fossils, but you'll also collect the tracks of the game on vinyl records. And something cool, you can play these tracks at your little hideouts where you lay back and rest. Pretty cool, right? You'll notice many homages to both Rare and David Wise's classic tracks. If you played these games as a kid, it's a nostalgic trip, and yes, of course, the DK rap has a very small cameo. Watch out for it, you'll notice Rare's influence in the characters as well. The Fractones remind me a lot of Banjo-Kazooie characters. They'll give you handy tips and hints to find more bananas, and sometimes they'll reward you after completing many quests. The game at its core truly does feel like a more refined Donkey Kong 64. It's not just a trip of nostalgia, it's a true and much-needed evolution of the Donkey Kong series. Collectibles never went away in 3D platforming, but they were never quite as lengthy as they were in Donkey Kong 64. Like, ever again. Seriously, that game almost completely killed the collectible series. A collectathon, if you will. Donkey Kong 64's lengthy collectibles and character switching dynamic killed gamers' drives to try and fully complete the game. Well, most of them. I still have my childhood copy at the ready for whenever I want to pop the cartridge in. However, Nintendo did learn from Rare's, I guess we could call it Rare mistake, and made these collectibles feel rewarding for exploration. Nintendo clearly didn't want to ruin the flow of a gaming session. Nintendo focused on respecting gamers' time, not just handing them busy work to keep playing their game. I felt like I could run around in Donkey Kong Bananza without requiring a spreadsheet to track bananas and what characters I had to play as. It was just DK and his new buddy Pauline. So, to summarize the collectibles mechanic, there's still a lot to be collected, but there was a lot less bloat and a lot more joy while playing the game. And all these collectibles you find, they end up in a very cool museum to display in one of the layers, showcasing all of the progress and hard work you put in. As an Animal Crossing fan, all I needed was a silly owl to make things perfect, but this guy will suffice. At its core, Donkey Kong has always been about momentum, whether that's side-scrolling, jumping from trees, grabbing onto vines, tearing entire mountains apart, or running around freely. You jump around, you groove out to the music, you smash barrels over enemies' heads, rendering them unconscious and vulnerable to be stomped out. Whoa. Chill. Okay, chill. Seriously though, who hasn't spent some time chucking barrels around? Bananza is no different. The humorous faces of Donkey Kong, the nighttime chats with Pauline, the roast by Cranky Kong, it all feels like the perfect Donkey Kong game wrapped into one. Not to mention some of these bonus levels, side-scrolling like in Donkey Kong Country or Tropical Freeze, I'm in. But it still feels like Bananza. This isn't just a new Donkey Kong game, it's a celebration of all of the Donkey Kong games that came before it, and while it may be missing out on very important characters, you could feel the love that Nintendo put into this game and the respect they had towards Rare's previous iterations. They didn't knock down what Rare laid down as a foundation, they embraced it and they built upon it. Playing Donkey Kong Bananza feels like hanging out with an old friend after a long time spent apart. You've both matured, you've grown, you've evolved, hopefully, but that comforting feeling between the two feels perfect. So, in my opinion, was it worth the wait? It sure was. In fact, I think Donkey Kong Bananza is worth buying a Switch 2 just to play in itself. Think of that old school reason to buy Halo for the Xbox series, or The Last of Us for the PlayStation. It deserves that kind of attention. It is incredibly hard to reach perfection in a video game. So few companies have done it, but Donkey Kong Bananza feels like this is the closest that Nintendo has ever reached perfection with one of their 3D platformers. Donkey Kong Bananza isn't just a reimagining of the Donkey Kong series, it's the greatest 3D platform that Nintendo has ever produced, arguably the greatest 3D platformer to ever be released. And with the insane amount of games that Nintendo has released under their own banana tree of 3D platformers, the Donkey Kong team should feel proud for making this man feel just a little bit like a kid again, even if it was for just a split moment. Let's not wait that long again, Nintendo, okay? Thank you everyone for watching. Consider liking this video, comment your thoughts on Donkey Kong Bananza, and consider subscribing, and I'll see you again soon.